Hi, everyone. And
hi, everybody. Sorry. I just interrupted you.
It's all good. Welcome to PCCS's emPower Hour. My name is Alyssa Kevin.
My name is Kevin Roman.
And
I'm Alexa Donnelly.
Yeah.
We have today our very own Alexa Donnelly guest co-hosting with us. So thank you, Alexa, for joining us.
Anytime.
Today we have a really special episode to kind of highlight the fact that DSP week is right around the corner. So we have the NADSP here with us today. Before we have our good friend John come back for our second episode, we want to just take a moment and thank a few of our sponsors that are helping us make DSP week possible. We have gift cards from J&B Pizzeria. We have day passes from iPlay America.
Big Ed's Barbecue.
Stop and Shop as well.
Stop and Shop. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we also have two big sponsorships that we really want to take a moment and really thank. The Staten Island Giving Circle, who have donated Dunkin' Donuts gift cards to all of our internal DSPs. So
everybody drinks coffee. So
everybody does.
That's perfect.
I love the avocado toast personally. So
with the bacon.
And we also want to thank Therapy Connection, who has sponsored our food sponsorship for our flea market coming this Saturday at PCCS's headquarters, 150 Granite Avenue. Shameless plug. So we hope to see you there.
September 18th.
September 18th.
12 o'clock.
12 p.m. Be there. There's a lot of great stuff coming. So with that said, we want to welcome our great guest, our exciting guest, John Raffaele from the NADSP.
Hey, John.
Hello. Hi, you happy people. You are happy people.
We really are happy people.
I tell you, man, I could just listen to you just talk about sponsors all day.
We're a giddy group.
Oh, I love it. I
We love our sponsors, so,
we love our sponsors.
I love it. I mean, and that's a sign to me that your organization is one with a positive culture. And
we try.
That's an important thing for DSPs. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, hi, thank you so much for having me and having the NADSP with you.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you as always. Like we said, behind the scenes, we are so excited to hear some more personal anecdotes. So we're happy to have you back.
Okay.
So, John, for those who hadn't tuned in to the last time that we had you, can you please introduce yourself, tell us what you do, your history, what you do at the NADSP?
Sure. Well, I'm John Raffaele. I happen to be a social worker, like my sister Alexa, but I got to social work kind of somewhat accidentally, because back in 1986, when I was 20 years old, you can do the math, I needed a job, and I thought I was going to get this job as a camp counselor. Because I saw in this advertisement they used to, back in my days when I was a 20-year-old, there was things called newspapers. I don't know if you've ever seen them. Newspapers. So then,
heard of them. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. And I grew up in upstate New York, near Poughkeepsie, New York, and we had the Poughkeepsie Journal. And I looked in the classified section because I needed a job. June of 1986. Anyway, so I saw this job, Holy Cross Camp. That's what I thought it said, Holy Cross Camp. So, and they're looking for counselors. Oh, cool. I'll get a summer job being a camp counselor. Awesome. Called them up. They said, can you come in the next day for a job interview? I said, yeah, heck yeah, I'm going to be a camp counselor. Hang out for the summer with kids, row the canoe or with a paddle canoe and, roast marshmallows, camp stuff. And lo and behold, I go to the interview and I'm driving to the address, and there it was. It wasn't a camp. It was a campus. It was, I didn't read the advertisement close enough. It was a place called the Holy Cross Campus. And what it was a residential treatment center for 120 boys and girls that were placed there pretty much by the New York State Family Court System. And at that point, it was called the Division for Youth. These were all kids with lots of emotional disturbances and lots of disabilities and that kind of thing. And it was 120 boys and girls that the job that they were posting was for a childcare worker, right? A direct support professional. I was 20 myself. I wasn't much older than these children, but they were desperate for staff. Does that sound familiar? Not much has changed in 35, 40 years, right?
Seems like we're still in the same boat.
You got it. We're going to talk about that today. Anyway, they hired me. I got 3 days of orientation. Same stuff that you learn today, right? First aid, CPR. It wasn't called SCIP. It was called Therapeutic Crisis Intervention, which is basically how to run. But basically I got this very little training, and boom, given to these kids that needed a lot more support than I was qualified to give. But lo and behold, long story very short, that summer job lasted for me 8 years, and I fell in love with the profession of direct support, of working with disenfranchised, disabled, happen to be disabled children, right? Doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. But direct support is direct support. It's a very universal thing, because what it's about building relationships with people so that you can help them have great lives, And so what happened, and here's why I'm telling you the story, and I'm glad you asked. During that time, being a child care worker, and I got promoted into different things and so forth, but I saw that the direct support workers, right, the people that were spending most of the time, all the time, with these kids, we had no authority. We had no professional clout. We were kind of glorified babysitters, right? Which was not the truth. We knew these kids in and out and up and down. We were with them through crisis, through joy, through death, through you name it. We were there. We knew them. But it was the professionals, the social workers, right? The professionals, the clinicians, the psychologists. They had all the professional, the professional authority to work with these children with treatment plans and all this kind of stuff. The direct support professionals, we had to navigate those treatment plans and work those plans with the kids, the behavior support plans and all that. We got no input. That never made sense to me. We should have been at those meetings. We should have, not only the kids should have been at those meetings, but we should have been at those meetings. We should have had input in how to develop a behavior support plan for these children, So what happened was, over that 8 years, I started to get resentful, right? Because I was making very little money at that point, $6-7 an hour. That was in the 80s, 90s, and I said, you know what, I got to do something different. And what I did, I went to social work school. I went to Yeshiva University in New York City, and I became a group worker. And it always was in the back of my mind, I want to continue to develop and elevate this direct support profession. And again, a very long story short, over the course of the last 25 years, that's all I've done in terms of the social work I do. I do a little bit of therapy and stuff like that, but ultimately, what I do for the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals, and by the way, thank you, PCCS, for being members, and we're going to talk about what you're going to be doing with our materials. But the National Alliance for Direct Support Professionals is where ultimately my dreams have come true in terms of being able to be an advocate and somewhat of a champion for direct support professionals. And what we do at the NADSP, what I do largely is all of our educational materials, our training materials. And at the NADSP, we have a certification program, which I think you guys are going to talk about later. We have lots of training resources, but we're also doing more and more and more policy work. And that's what's critical right now. It's getting direct support, the profession of direct support, recognized. And one ugly gift that the pandemic has brought us, direct support professionals are essential workers. And we had to actually fight for that. Can you believe that? We had to fight for that. States had to fight for the allowance, and you probably had it in your agency.
Mm-hmm.
We remember.
Remember? It's like, come on now. Not, liquor stores are open and they're essential. Direct support professionals are essential. And direct support professionals are largely responsible for keeping people alive during this pandemic.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. Anyway, that's kind of my background. And so I'm a direct support professional through and through, in my roots, but also in what I do for the NADSP.
They do say you're never not a DSP after you're a DSP, no matter how high you go up, there's always that DSP at heart, Yeah.
You can't unsee it. You can't undo it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now, John, you were talking about the certification system that you guys are kind of trying to continue to push and build and get people to buy in. Tell me a little bit about that.
So here's the thing. We've got this great certification program. We've had it for a long time, and it's evolved over the years. But what we have now, it's really the only national certification program for direct support professionals where they can earn credit and get a national certification for being competent, right? So, but here's the thing. There's nothing as an incentive for a direct support professional to get a certification, unless they're working at an organization like yours that is developing internally a system of a career ladder, a system of certifying and compensating for the learning and so forth. I want you guys to talk about that, please, because your DSPs need to understand what's going on. But the larger society, there's no incentive. States do not require agencies to have certified direct support professionals. It's really at the will of an organization, and really, that's a big issue. That's a problem, and it's good organizations like yours that see the direct support role as something important, as valued, and good on you. But our mission, we have to change a lot more minds, and not so much even at the organizational level. It's at the larger state and federal level. There's 1.5 million that we know of, 1.5 million direct support professionals in the United States doing work with people with intellectual developmental disabilities. In New York State, we were approximately 110 to 115,000 direct support professionals. So when you hear those numbers, when the politicians and policymakers hear those numbers, when the funders hear those numbers, they get a little frightened. What are we going to do with 1.5 million people that are getting certified, that are being elevated? How are we going to pay them? That becomes an issue. So it's a very complicated thing, this certification, the bigger picture of certification for direct support professionals. It's not that complicated to get certified, because most direct support professionals do great stuff, and all we need to see is kind of proof of that. And I could talk about the specifics of the system, but I don't think we have time for that. But the bottom line is, good direct support professionals, they can tell a story about what they have done with somebody to help them get a great outcome. And we hear that, and we can help them connect the dots to some nationally based competencies, to our code of ethics. And our reviewers will review a submission of one of these stories, and boom, that person will obtain a badge, an electronic badge. But what that is, that's a micro certification. And these stack, and as they stack, you get an abundance of them, and there's different levels. And again, we don't have time to talk about that, but that's a model we want states, we want organizations to adopt. But right now, the sad part of it is there's really not at this point yet. We're getting closer. There's no incentive for that. So stay tuned. And you guys, what you tell me? What are you doing in terms of your organization with the certification rollout here? Because I know you're using our stuff.
Yes. So I'm going to share a little bit of our beginning phases, which was pre-COVID. So this was probably about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, that we attempted to first roll out the NADSP certifications. And just in full transparency, we tried to roll it out. We tried to incentivize it and say, you'll be paid for your time and, all of those sorts of things. And we unfortunately did not have one direct support professional that completed not one badge. And so we sat back and we said, all right, we've really got to we're doing something wrong here. It can't be that this was a great idea and no one wants to engage in it, right? We really missed the mark here. And so the way that we've reconfigured it is in a few ways. So the first part is, right now when you get hired with PCCS, we have a standard hire pay. So right now with our COVID hazard pay, typically you're hired at $17 an hour.
Okay.
And that's across the board, regardless of experience, education, certification, so on and so forth.
I'll tell you right now, Alexa, that's about $5 more an hour than the national average for direct support wages. So
Wow.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yes, we are definitely, you know, what's difficult too, though, in our area, because we're in Staten Island and in the New York City area, it's still a very low wage, you know? And so one of the things that we've done is we reassessed how we're going to start hiring people as of December of this year. And I do hope that some of our DSPs are listening. You will see some information coming out to sign up for information sessions to learn more about this program and how it is going to all work and all of the technical pieces and the things you'll have to sign up for and those sorts of things. So look out for the information. We know we get it to you every way, shape, or form we can. So the first part is really just reassessing how we hire and how we retain our employees. So the beginning piece to that was being able to allocate a dollar amount or, you know, a percent amount to appreciating different things. So we have, now we'll have a system for if you have a certain level of experience. So there's 3 tiers. You'll get paid X amount more an hour. If you have a degree of sorts, you'll get paid X amount more an hour. One thing that I do want to highlight that it was a big discussion and sort of something we really had to unravel was our decision to appreciate at the same dollar amount, both experience and degree. So if you have, because for us, they, you know, I think one of the really interesting things when I was going to school for social work, I was a DSP at the time. And then I had risen to a supervisor. And when I was in school, I was like, these are all the things I'm doing. You guys are just calling them different things.
That's
like
right.
you just have a textbook for it and you have a different language that you speak, but I'm doing this every day when I show up to work. Why am I not considered a social worker? And so that was one of the eye-opening pieces for me. So that's the first piece, is incentivizing our hiring and our current staff to appreciate different things. I think we might have, did we lose John? Or am I frozen?
Uh-oh. Yes, I think we lost John briefly, but we're gonna. There we are.
Hello.
There we are.
What happened? Oh my gosh.
You know what? The internet didn't want to hear it.
Okay. You know what? You know what you were talking about? You're talking about, you know what you're talking about? You're talking about a standardized occupational classification. That's what you're talking about. And that's what DSPs don't have, but social workers do have.
Yes.
So anyway, continue.
And that's exactly what DSPs need. And so that's really where we started, is reassessing everyone's pay based on those certain areas. So we have experience, we have seniority within our agency. So if you've been with us a long time, we'll appreciate that differently as well. And certifications like your to standard sort of CPR, medication certification, even driving. You know, because there's a certain level of also risk that comes with doing each of these things.
Yeah.
So that was our first step. Our second step is going to be a year-long training program, and we're using the Relias system. And then our third step from there is going to be the folks that go through that. We're going to then relaunch the NADSP certifications.
Yep.
So that way we can start to get people their badges and certified. And we're hoping that throughout doing that, we're going to implement every quarter. When you finish your training circuit for this quarter, then you're going to have a session with your supervisors and with the leadership team to start to really understand your position better. Because I think one of the things after talking with a lot of our DSPs, and I was just calling DSPs and genuinely asking like, hey, we had this whole certification thing up and running. You were able to get paid for it. Why didn't you do it? And the number one reason was because I don't plan on staying and I don't know really why I would. And so unless we were able to figure out a system of retention over time and building their income over time, I didn't feel like we were able to engage them in doing the full certifications. So that's our sort of plan. So it'll take another year to fully get there. But we finally have a framework. We have finally financially figured it out.
Good.
And so we are one step closer, which I cannot be more thankful to our HR director, Christina, who has really helped me take all of my jumbled thoughts and put them into policy and action and tangible next steps.
No, look, it's a great plan. It's a great plan. And you know what? Don't worry about it. It didn't work the first time. That's fine. That's fine. What we say all the time in everything that we do, especially with elevating direct support, this is a marathon.
Yes.
Not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. There's going to be lots of potholes you're going to experience, because
that's a great way to put it.
You know, and that's okay. And you know what? You are farther ahead than most organizations in the United States in terms of creating some type of career lattice situation for your staff. That is a retaining and a recruitment tool, to be honest. We know that. But I think the plan you have is really good, because here's the other big picture thing. And you alluded to it. You know, direct support professionals, they might not want to, they don't feel they're going to be staying very long because they're going on to something else. And that's fine. You know, go to become a nurse, a teacher, a social worker. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is, how do we create, and that's exactly what you're doing, incentives to stay doing direct support?
Right.
We struggle all the time when we go to organizations that, you know, they want to make career ladders that bring direct support professionals and put them to supervisor positions. And that's wonderful.
Exactly what I was going to say. That's the way it kind of always looks. A DSP wants to move up to be a supervisor.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. And
Yep.
Kevin, I bet you know as well as I do, a lot of good direct support professionals aren't good supervisors.
Bingo. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Different world,
Yep.
different skill set.
They might not even like it once they're in the supervisor position. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a different, you can't be everybody's friend. You have to make hard decisions.
Yep.
You know,
And
things like that.
it calls for such a different level of traits and characteristics and skill set. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. And so one of the things that we're that we've put in place within this plan to try to help keep DSPs in the DSP role is adding on additional responsibilities to what we would consider the standard direct support professional role. So for example, in our community habilitation department, after going through this year-long training and understanding how to write a staff action plan, how to really read and interpret one, how to implement one, how to facilitate a meeting, you can then start to do that for your case, and you can make more an hour for doing that.
Yeah.
And so that way because it really, just like you, John, it never made sense to me that I would be the DSP doing the plan, but then I wouldn't be at the meeting where the plan was developed. And I'm like, Susan doesn't like that. I don't know why they put that in her plan. She's not going to do it.
She's going to kick my butt if I do this.
Yep.
Yep.
It's true. It's true. I've got a, you know, this is a horrible story. And I tell this story in trainings. It was this is back in the late 80s, early 90s. There was this little hip hop group called Public Enemy. If you're not familiar with them, they are highly political, highly intelligent, but they were also seen as, you know, kind of negative and a negative influence on the youth. Well, frankly, there was one young man that was in our care, and he was very aggressive, and he would be often, and this deals with what you were saying, Alexa, about these plans not making sense. So he would get aggressive, he'd get in fights, you know, beat people up and all that. And he had other things going on. But one thing that always helped him, I would go to him, hey, come with me. We go to his room, let's listen. And one of his favorite bands, his groups, was Public Enemy. So he would listen to Public Enemy, right? And it's, you know, I love Public Enemy personally, but for him it meant something to him. It calmed him down. It gave him some kind of release for his anger, whatever it was. Didn't matter. Here's the story. So a clinician, and I think with good intentions, said, you know, he needs to stop listening to this music. I said, what? No. And no, he needs to stop. It's creating anger in him. It's creating anger in him, and he needs to. What you need to do is you need to remove that music and remove the Public Enemy posters from his room. Oh my goodness. So again, I'm the DSP, right, or the child care worker, whatever it is, and talk about an unethical thing that I had to do because of the direction of the professionals.
Mm-hmm.
It broke the relationship between me and the kid, right? I'm lucky I didn't wind up getting, clobbered from him. But I think I had a good enough relationship where he and I told him, I don't want to do this, but unfortunately, this is what the treatment plan said. That was wrong, Alexa and Alyssa and Kevin. That was wrong. And I still feel guilty to this day about it, right? But that was the disconnection. If that clinician talked to me and the other direct support workers, the child care workers, and said, no, so and so, he gets calm when he listens to this stuff. So that's a perfect example of why don't we listen to the direct support staff more than we do? I think it's gotten a little better over the years, but it's not that much better.
No.
And one other thing you said about interpreting something. You were talking about interpreting. I've seen some behavior support plans. I mean, I'm a social worker and I can't understand the damn things.
Mm-hmm.
On a Thursday, if it's raining, what you need to do 3 times with Kevin is walk around the circle with the flag. Walk clockwise. On Fridays, walk counterclockwise and make sure you're wearing red. These kind of things, right?
Yep.
And again, I think it's all with good intention,
yes.
But ultimately, direct support professionals are very practical people. We're about the relationships that we have with the people we support, and we're also about what will work and what's the path of least resistance.
Right.
And so, I think there needs to be much more direct support professional presence at the professional table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
In all capacities, like one of the things that I felt, and our corporate compliance officer is also our director of person-centered practices instead of like the traditional quality improvement stuff.
Yep.
And one thing that she felt really strongly about was like, we need to pay DSPs to be a part of every single committee we have. They need to be incentivized to be on and active in these committees. So that was something we made sure that we built in. And I think, to speak to what you're saying about the plans and stuff, it's so accurate, about the things that just don't necessarily make sense, and it's interesting because DSPs have just fundamentally, they just embody accepting people truly for who they are, yet the professionals and embracing neurodiversity. When professionals are trying to create plans to help normalize people, right, to be accepted into the larger society, as you will. And it's interesting that professionals will, go to conferences and have presentations on neurodiversity and all these things. And you'll read that same person's behavior plan, and it's trying to fundamentally change things that make up a person to be who they are. Yeah. But DSPs have it figured out.
Yeah.
I think that's why, the universe is scared to give them an occupation code.
I think so. We're getting close to it, though. You'll see. But let's talk DSP Recognition Week. Woo!
Let's do that.
Yes.
We
love that.
Yes, let's put a little positive spin on
appreciate
this.
them. How do we appreciate them? That's the real question.
I mean, beyond money. And that's beyond PCCS, man. That's one of those bigger issues that needs to be addressed. I do believe this particular administration in Washington, D.C., very, 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 very supportive of our industry. You are going to see, if you haven't already, you're going to see more funding mechanisms and more money coming our way for all kinds of good stuff. That's good. But beyond that, beyond money, I think what DSPs, in terms of recognition, need, I think it is. The thank yous are great. The car washes, the barbecues, all that's really important and really great. And I think it should be highlighted this week. But it needs to continue. And when I say recognition, I'm not talking about the barbecue or the gas card. Again, have at it. Do that. It's the specific recognition, the specific gratitude that and this is largely on the shoulders of frontline supervisors and managers. I think direct support professionals get very burnt. They get very tired. They often are in crisis mode. They're from one situation to the next, to the next, to the next. They don't get a chance to reflect. If they do reflect, it's usually about something that has been negative that has happened, right? Recognition in the form of, you know what, Kevin, thank you so much. Last night, I saw you de-escalate Alexa. She wasn't able to, put on her boots, and she was getting frustrated. She was about ready to, throw that thing through the window. I saw you, Kevin, do what you do best to communicate with her and to intervene and prevent a crisis. And you saw the antecedent behaviors happen, and you nailed it. Thank you, Kevin. Now, if you see what I did there, I was not only being very specific about a recognition, I was also using the words and the language of our profession. Assessment, de-escalation, antecedent.
Right.
We got to start feeding that to the direct support professionals. And when I say recognition, it has to be in that form. Direct support professionals have told us time and again, we're very happy to get the barbecues and hey, great work, but we don't feel heard. We don't think people see us. We don't think the higher ups understand what we do. We feel disconnected. I think one thing that we can do during the recognition week is make a pledge, to be more observant of the incredible work that direct support professionals do every day, not just DSP week. Yep. That's one thing. Another thing is for the organization, for PCCS, and I think you're probably going to do is I'd love to know what you have in store, whether it's the barbecues and all that kind of good stuff. Please do all that. But what are you doing as kind of the voice for direct support professionals, whether it's at the state level or even at the federal level? Do you have anything that you have in place that you're going to do? Maybe a letter penned by the organization to whether it's the OPWDD or wherever it is. Heck, send it to President Biden. What are you doing, and how can you publicly show the direct support professionals you truly recognize them? So I think those are a couple things that can be very substantial.
That's a wonderful point. So I do want to share one of the things our executive director, Chris Marchione, has been doing. She's been meeting mostly with our local state legislators on a weekly basis. And one of the things that's been beautiful, she's been bringing direct support professional stories into those meetings and sharing exactly how someone helped someone through. Recently, we had, I think it was Ida. That hit Staten Island, and a lot of people experienced flooding, massive flooding all over, had to evacuate their homes, so on and so forth. And who do you think was out getting people out of their homes safely? The direct support.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yep.
And so bringing those stories and highlighting to a lot of people that truly, unless they have some level of involvement with the service system for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, they hear the word DSP, they know that it exists, but they don't really understand what that person comes to work and does. And I think that's been instrumental in helping them start to understand why the funding is so important, why a professional code is so important, and all of those pieces. Another thing that I've been pledging to myself to do, that one of our directors helped me realize, that's been on my own supervisor journey, is that I have a very difficult time. And I'd like to think that it's probably an issue a lot of supervisors have, because I don't want to feel alone in it. But when a DSP comes to me with an issue and they use language that puts up a wall for me, right? So an example, I had a DSP come into my room a few weeks ago and, kind of very upset, stormed in, Karina needs a talking to. And immediately sort of and now this is after just the week before we did a beautiful staff meeting with using positive language and strength-based language. And
you hate to see it.
8:15 in the morning and you're hitting me with this. And so I have been pledging to myself to take a step back and really try to hear people out and what they're intending to say versus what I'm hearing in the language that's being used.
It's hard. It's hard, Alexa. You're and you know what? You are not alone. You are not. I mean, we have a Facebook page with about 25,000 direct support professionals on it. I don't know if you guys watch it, and I mean,
we're in there.
Oh my God, it's a love-hate relationship for us because we're constantly monitoring that language. And it's a balance, Alexa. You have to, you can't alienate that DSP.
Right.
But you've got to also, and this maybe can help you and help all the DSPs that are listening and everybody. We are in the infancy of this profession. Even though it's been around, we've been doing direct support, really in its form for the last, I figure 40 years. It's still in its infancy. Social workers like you and I, we've got our language. We know how to help people reframe and partialize and meet them where they're at, and that's our language, right? Nurses got that language. I mean, every profession has its own jargon, its lexicon, right?
Yep.
DSPs have it too, and that's where here it is, the classical teachable moment. When you're in that position, someone needs to talk to, hey, one second. Stop the person, say, let's and you use your social work skills, right? Let's reframe this. That's not going to work. Talking to is going to wind up with you with a black eye. Chances are, there's other ways to get. I think you see where this is going. I think it's a matter of putting kind of not just positive language. It's not about that. It's also about that language represents the profession. It represents people with disabilities. And when we like wheelchair bound, wheelchair, no, anybody that uses a wheelchair will tell you it doesn't bind me, it frees me, it liberates me.
Right.
And DSPs will make that mistake. Bedridden. This is one I love. High functioning, low functioning. Right? That language is a big deal. And I tell you right now, I was low functioning last night. I was low functioning this morning. I don't know if I'm high functioning right now. I don't really, honestly, but it's that thing where it's we got to be careful. We don't want to just make people feel bad about the language they use, but we have to start somewhere, Alexa. And you're right. I mean, it's tough. Your hackles go up, but they deserve to know that what the way they're presenting themselves is not the elevated way in which we want DSPs to present themselves.
Right.
And it's again marathon.
Yes. And that's one thing I think the supervisors at PCCS and even all of our staff in support roles like our CR staff or like our HR staff, we're all in the process of learning how to do that with our DSPs.
Right.
And I think that's something that collectively we've really been trying to work on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do think that touching back a little bit where John was saying, I think it's really important that you kind of highlighted that it's such a nuanced and aspect of appreciating on both ends, where it could be as simple as, let me talk to Alexa because I'm mad about this. And, Alexa walking me through it in order to develop as a DSP and, wow, Alexa really listened to me. That was great, And from that end, as well as federally, legislatively, being advocated for as well, feeling like your agency respects you enough to advocate for you, to want better for you, I think that it's so, we look at the simple things like a pizza party because it's tangible and it's easy. And it's like, but I like you enough that I bought you pizza. Don't you see? But it's so far reaching and it's so nuanced that it's difficult to look at even as one person. You have teams and organizations and the NADSP is national trying to figure out how can we appreciate DSPs and make them feel valued as a professional,
Right. One of the, Kevin, you're hitting on something there. One of our nationally validated competencies, right? The NADSP has a set of 15 of these competencies, these skills, right? Our system of certification is kind of rooted in those and so forth. One of those competencies is something called organizational participation. And the reason that's a competent, and what that means is, as a competent DSP, as a competent direct support professional, I will be part and parcel to the mission of my organization, and I will be part of the life and breath of my organization, meaning committee memberships, whatever committees that PCCS might have, safety committees or special review. But even more than that, I'm thinking about your bringing a direct support professional to the Capitol.
Yep.
I mean, there's a million things you can do, but having the direct support professionals understand that they're not the pawns in the organization. They're not the quote unquote the workers. You know, they're the workers, but they're the lifeblood, right?
Right.
And they are just as important as the executive director. They're just as important as all of you guys. They're just as important. And I think organizational participation is something also that, and by the way, next week is a good time to kind of focus on that. That, you know, direct support professionals, and this is the other side of it. Often they're shy, or they don't feel that's not in their lane. But the reality is, it's part of their national set of competencies to be participating in the life of their organization. And I think one vehicle for that is to, be as transparent as you can as an organization, right? Be as transparent as you can in terms of your annual budget, in terms of helping them understand what a nonprofit organization is. A lot of direct support professionals don't understand that there's a board of directors that really are responsible for PCCS, and then the executive director and the executive team, they have to kind of answer to that board. And so, and whatever, show the organizational chart, and you might want to review your organizational chart. Where are direct support professionals on that chart? Mm-hmm. And hopefully they're on your chart, but I've seen organizations where they're not even on the chart.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things that I think can all add to the ongoing recognition and to elevate direct support.
Absolutely.
I think the transparency part that you're saying, John, is so important. I had taken I want to say it was about 3-4 months of an ongoing training to continue my leadership. And there was this big topic about DSPs not even knowing that an organization has a mission statement.
Yeah.
What is a mission statement? That out of everything in my 4 months being there has been the one thing that has resonated with me through and through, that we start every single meeting now reiterating the exact same one-liner that we have had in the organization in its beginning stages. In its proposal, we had the same mission statement for the last 15 years. And here we are, still saying mission statement. Yeah. What is that? Is that what that big sign in our entryway is? I have no idea.
I remember when I was a DSP, there was only like 1 or 2 people that knew the mission statement off the bat. We would be like, "Oh, what was the mission statement again?" And he would just recite. We're like, "Ha, look at him! Wow, that's great!" Like really,
but actually, there's a reason why
he's doing a good job. Actually, so that's wild.
Right? No, that's cool. That's cool. This is interesting. This is one of my favorite things to do. I was a trainer at an organization like yours for years, up in Sullivan County, a place called New Hope Community. I worked there for about 12 years before I started with NADSP. And so one of the things I did I would be the orientation leader and all that. One of the things I did, we had a 2-week orientation. At the very end of the orientation, second week, I did an exercise, making the mission statement of New Hope Community come to life. And so this was the setup. And I take this and use it if you want, because it's really fun. So you give the mission statement to all the new staff, right? And they're looking at it, they read it. It's generally, mission statements are all very similar. They're all very, about we want to create a world where people with disabilities are included and loved and blah, 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 whatever your mission statement says, right? But here's the angle. And so I would divide the class up. If it was 20 people, divide, 5 groups of 4 or whatever. And each group had an hour to come up with a way to explain the mission statement to an alien.
Oh, I love that.
I love
Yeah.
that.
And
Alexa definitely loves that.
oh yeah. And so, okay, here you go, Alexa.
This is coming into new hire, Kevin.
Oh yeah.
This is fun. So what you do, and you give them free reign to to maybe give them some supplies to create. Usually it was skits, but it was anything. It was a skits, poems. I remember one group did a sculpture, and the rules are that the aliens are they understand English or Spanish, but they don't quite understand what disabilities are. So you have to, that's part of this. How do you explain something that seems so simple? By the way, a mission statement is not a simple thing. But how do you explain that to, an alien? And so what I would do, give an hour, and of course I'd go in my office, I'd dress up in a alien costume with the, and I'd come in and they'd have to explain. I'm telling you right now, that will get people a sense of an organization, and you got to have a little humility to dress up as a alien. But I kind of enjoyed it. It was fun.
I'll do it. I'll do it, everybody. It's okay.
Wow.
It was fun.
Amazing.
Love it. So I love how much information you have given us, John, and honestly, so many more perspectives as well. We really pride ourselves in trying to make sure our DSPs know just how much they do mean to us. Like you said, the barbecues are great, the raffle prizes are great, but at the end of the day, making sure that they know that even people who don't have direct direct access to the DSPs, like similarly to Kevin and myself, we don't see the DSPs on a daily basis. Right. But knowing that they know that we recognize everything that they do. The HR team, the quality management teams, they're not working directly with these people. To know that we see you and we thank you for all that you do has been something that we really pride ourselves on and try more and more. As the years are progressing. But I want to leave off on a really positive note. So I have one final question for you, John. What message do you hope that the NADSP and other DSP networks can bring to direct support professionals?
Oh, man, that's a loaded but important and beautiful question. It's unfortunately simple, but it's the hardest thing going. So without direct support professionals working in organizations, or even with self-direction, which is certainly a trend that's happening where you're not necessarily working for an organization, but if you're doing direct support as a profession, you are doing work that keeps people with disabilities not only safe and healthy, but it's human rights and civil rights work. And we can't forget that. Because we're at a point in time that pendulum could swing back, and you guys are in the borough of New York City that had Willowbrook, and Willowbrook is not just an institution, right? Willowbrook is a state of mind. When we see that people with disabilities are not equal, when we see that people with disabilities are not worthy or valued in our society, that's a Willowbrook mentality, and that's what created the Willowbrooks of this world. And direct support professionals are at the front line of preventing that. And don't let anybody tell you differently. What now has to happen, and it is happening slowly and surely, organizations like mine and organizations like Anchor and the national organizations, and even the New York Alliance for Inclusion and Innovation, our statewide provider organization, are all full tilt boogie, now seeing the workforce crisis as something that cannot be ignored. And here's what's happening. We've not ignored it for 25 years at the NADSP, but what we're seeing now, direct support professionals are becoming noticed. They're essential. The pandemic has shown us that. Ida, Sandy.
Yep.
All the natural disasters, the wildfires. DSPs are literally making sure that people with disabilities are not only safe and sound, but once again, part of the community. So that's the larger message. And what we need, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years is that standardized occupational classification for direct support professionals. And we need the funding behind that so we can elevate rates. And ultimately, it's not only the money, we have to develop direct support professionals better than we do.
Yep.
That's the message. DSP Week is wonderful. And I mean, it's wonderful. It's great. But it's not enough. It's not enough. And at this point, we just can't keep having DSP weeks. We can't sustain. And that's positive to me. That's not a negative thing. That's positive. So enjoy DSP week, but know that we have this marathon we're running, and it's organizations like yours. And I say this with great respect, and to all of you. And heck, you invited me twice on this thing. You must, either you like the way I look, which if you do, you should probably get checked, or you like my message and the message of the NADSP. That is what's critical. Our message is clear. So that's what I got.
Well, you better keep coming back again
We'll
and
have
again.
your third time. Listen.
We're not done here, John. I have to say, I don't think we're done here. So I
Okay.
have you back.
Hey, you invite us, we'll be back. And next time, I think I wanted to bring a person this time, just we couldn't do it. I'd love to bring some other staff,
Absolutely.
Maybe Joe Macbeth he's our exec, Dan Hermrich. That's the guy we should have.
Yeah.
He's the architect of the e-badge system, which next year, the year after next, you're going to start.
Yep.
So, no, we got work to do. We've got work to
Love
do.
it.
We're just beginning.
Well, we'll be in touch. Well,
Have my people call your people.
Exactly.
I can't
I
wait.
love that.
John, I want to thank you so much for coming back and chatting with us and taking time out of your day to share your message over and over again. It's been such a pleasure talking with you again. For those who are watching, we do have a bunch of resources that we put in the comments as well.
There's a great virtual event for NADSP that's coming up.
Yep. All next week. All next week.
We will be there, so we're looking forward to it.
It's free. It doesn't cost a thing. Thanks to our sponsors. And, please, there's some great stuff. A lot of policy stuff. Yeah. Please, join us.
I have to say, I think even if you don't think that these things are relevant to you, it doesn't hurt to learn.
You'd be surprised.
You'd be surprised just even if you can gather one thing from a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It's really incredible. So we're really looking forward to being there with you guys. And I want to thank everyone who has been watching. And again, thank you to our sponsors that we shouted out earlier, to Staten Island Giving Circle and Therapy Connection. We will also be sharing their websites. They are great companies and organizations that do amazing things.
Thanks, Alexa.
Thank you, Alexa, for
Thank you,
Alexa, for co-hosting
joining us
with us as well.
Thanks everybody who watched. Thanks for all our DSPs.
Thank you all around. And to those DSPs who are watching, please stay tuned all next week. We will be sharing our raffle prize winners every day at 12 noon. So see you there. Thank you guys again.
Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, Kevin. Dear Alexa.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.